US and Russian delegations to meet in Saudi Arabia tomorrow. Details: UK Prime Minister ready to send British troops to Ukraine in case of peace deal. And why Trump does not believe Russia will go to war with NATO. The latest news next. A meeting between US and Russian delegations is scheduled to take place in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday, February 18th. The parties will discuss possible negotiations to end the Russian-Ukrainian war. Axios and NBC News report. Who to represent US at meeting? According to American media, the US delegation at tomorrow's meeting with the Russians will include Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and Special Envoy for the Middle East Steve Witkoff. Who might represent Russia? There is yet no information on who will lead the Russian delegation at the meeting. However, Western media suggest that it could be Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, as well as Yuri Ushakov, aide to Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Sergei Naryshkin, head of the Foreign Intelligence Service of Russia. Possible formats: US-Russia, US-Ukraine, Ukraine-Russia, US. According to NBC, the US did not invite Ukraine to this meeting with the Russians in Saudi Arabia. Washington's reasoning, as reported by NBC, is its desire to first hold a bilateral meeting with Russia, followed by a bilateral meeting with the Ukrainian delegation, and only then proceed to join negotiations. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrived in Saudi Arabia on Monday, the 17th of February, to hold talks between the US and Russian delegations on the settlement of the war in Ukraine, reported by Reuters. About details, Rubio, along with US National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and Special Envoy for the Middle East Steve Witkoff, is part of the US delegation. The talks in Saudi Arabia will be one of the first high-level face-to-face meetings between Russian and US officials in many years, and should precede a meeting between US President Donald Trump and Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin. Axios reports that the meeting between Russian and US officials will take place on Tuesday, the 18th of February. On the 16th of February, Andriy Yermak, the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, said that no meetings with Russians were planned until a plan to end the war was developed. President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, said he was not aware of the meeting in Saudi Arabia and expressed concern that the plan for the meeting was developed outside of Kyiv's control. US President Donald Trump has stated that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy will be involved in talks to end the war, reported by Trump speaking to journalists as broadcast by Fox News. When asked whether Zelenskyy was expected to participate in the talks, Trump responded affirmatively.
Do you expect Zelenskyy to be involved in these conversations? What will his role be?
I do. He will be involved.
About details, Trump did not provide any further information regarding Zelenskyy's role in the talks. In addition, as Trump stated, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin wants to stop fighting. Previously, US President Donald Trump said he believes he could meet with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin very soon to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. US President Donald Trump disagrees with claims that Russia will one day go to war with NATO, reported by Trump speaking to journalists as broadcast by Fox News. Details: Trump was asked whether he agreed with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy's statement that Russia would fight against NATO and whether he had any concerns about it. Trump responded, "No, I don't agree. I don't agree. Not even a little bit." US President Donald Trump has said that he is ready to allow Europe to buy US-made weapons to be transferred to Ukraine, reported by Bloomberg, citing Trump's words.
The move would potentially let Ukraine use American weapons, even as the US withdraws its military support for the country, as Trump tries to negotiate an end to the three-year war.
About details, Bloomberg notes that the Trump administration has told Western allies that it wants them to buy American weapons and military equipment to keep NATO together. It also wants Europe to buy more American energy. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced that he is ready and willing to deploy troops to Ukraine. This could happen to ensure the implementation of any peace agreement, The Telegraph reports. The British Prime Minister noted that he did not take this decision lightly, as it could put British servicemen and women in harm's way. According to him, this in particular means a readiness and willingness to contribute to Ukrainian security by deploying British troops on the ground if necessary.
I do not say that lightly. I feel very deeply the responsibility that comes with potentially putting British servicemen and women in harm's way. The British agency notes this is the first time he has explicitly said he is considering deploying British peacekeepers to Ukraine.
Starmer arrives at the meeting of European leaders in Paris. Starmer also reportedly arrived at an emergency summit with European leaders in Paris on Monday, which was convened by French President Emmanuel Macron. Macron initiated the meeting after it emerged that European leaders were not invited to the first peace talks on Ukraine between the United States and Russia, and senior members of the administration of US President Donald Trump said that US security support for Europe would be reduced. The largest oil pumping station of the Caspian Pipeline Consortium on the territory of Russia, Kropotkinskaya, has been disabled after drone strikes. There are no casualties among the station's personnel, according to CPC Telegram channel. According to the statement, the strike was carried out by 7 unmanned aerial vehicles, which were loaded not only with explosives but also with metal striking elements.
At the moment, the Kropotkinskaya oil pumping station has been taken out of operation. Oil transportation through the Tengiz-Novorossiysk pipeline system is being carried out at reduced pumping rates, bypassing the station.
A CPC management team has traveled to the site to assess the damage and determine the time frame for restoring the station's functionality. The Kropotkinskaya oil pumping station, located in the Kavkazsky district of Kuban, is the largest oil pumping station of CPC on the territory of the Russian Federation. Caspian Pipeline Consortium is an international oil transportation company involving companies from Russia, Kazakhstan, and foreign extraction companies. It was established to construct and operate the Caspian main oil pipeline, which is over 1,500 kilometers long. The pipeline primarily receives oil from western Kazakhstan's fields and crude oil from Russian producers. The oil is transported to the company's marine terminal in the village of Yuzhne Ozerevka, west of Novorossiysk, where it is loaded onto tankers for shipment to global markets. Ukraine is attacking Russia's oil infrastructure to reduce the aggressor's military potential. In particular, last week in the Tver region in Russia, an oil pumping station and Ryapol was damaged in a drone attack. This station is considered one of the key points of the Baltic pipeline system second. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.